Hi everyone, and welcome to Truth Over News. There's been a lot of gaslighting by the Biden administration, by the media, and by Joe Biden himself about what special counsel Robert Hur's investigation into Biden's illegal retention of classified materials really found. The main theme among Biden apologists is that he was exonerated, that Hur found no wrongdoing, and that we can all move on now. Well, that is just plain false. In fact, Special Counsel Hur's investigation uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. It's right there at the top of Hur's 388-page report. Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials. So why wasn't Biden criminally charged, and what else did Hur reveal? In today's show, we take a deep dive into Hur's report. Late last week, Special Counsel Robert Hur issued his report into Biden's illegal retention of classified materials. To be more precise, Hur actually issued his report earlier, but it was then passed both to the White House and to Hur's bosses at the Department of Justice before it was made public. That's important because it means that Biden's White House had plenty of advance warning, not only of the report coming out, but also of the detailed contents of the report. And yet they appear to have been completely unprepared when it was finally released. The report states that Biden's memory was significantly limited, that he was an elderly man with a poor memory, and that he has diminished faculties and faulty memory. The report also states that when Biden was interviewed by the special counsel's office, he could not remember in what years he was vice president, nor when his son died. Yet despite Biden and his team having seen the report well in advance, all they could do on the night the report was issued is send him out to give a statement in which he got angry with reporters for asking about the special counsel's report. He also lied about the report having exonerated him, and he lied about where he kept his classified materials, and he lied about not having shared classified materials with third parties. And as the cherry on top, he also claimed that Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the president of Egypt, was actually the president of Mexico.
I think that, as you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him.
That's not good when your handlers send you out specifically to explain to the world that you are not senile, and then you go out there and confuse Mexico with Egypt. But let's look at the events in order. As we reported at the time, in late 2022, classified documents were found at Joe Biden's University of Pennsylvania office in Washington, D.C. They were found by people who had been sent there to clear out that office. And then more classified documents were later found in Delaware, where they were strewn around Biden's garage. You probably recall that infamous footage of Biden in his Corvette with classified documents stashed behind him in his garage. Those events triggered the special counsel investigation. In fact, Attorney General Merrick Garland had no choice but to appoint a special counsel because he had just appointed a special counsel to investigate Donald Trump's alleged removal of classified documents. So, of course, when such documents were found in Biden's garage, he had to do the same. Now, some people complained that Hur, the special counsel who's been appointed to look into Biden, had been appointed by Trump as U.S. attorney. But that doesn't mean much. First off, it was in Maryland. So under the blue slip process, the U.S. attorney is put forward by that state's senators, both Democrats. Then there's the fact that Hur was assistant U.S. attorney under Obama, and he was counsel to FBI Director Christopher Wray when Wray was still at DOJ. And lastly, he was liaison to special counsel Robert Mueller's witch hunt investigation into Trump. So that's why Democrats did not really have a problem with Hur until he came out last week with his report. And here's what Hur found. Unlike the narrative that has been spun in the media that this was an exoneration, it was not. Quite the opposite. As we already said, Hur uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials. That's a crime. First off, and this is also something the media lied about, Hur found over 300 classified documents, including top secret documents, in Biden's possession. The media previously made it out as if it was only a very small number of documents because they simply parroted a Biden lawyer who falsely claimed that there were only 6 items. Now, the media might claim that they were misled by Biden's lawyer, but that doesn't fly. We immediately red flagged the story about the 6 items, and we did it in real time. So why couldn't the media have done that? Because they were protecting Biden. And the same goes for where these 300 plus documents were stored. Biden told the world the other night that they were all either locked away or in lockable cabinets. Well, no, we've already seen the footage with the Corvette, and now Hur has given us an additional bunch of photos. The documents were strewn all over the place. Coincidentally, or not, some of those classified documents are about the events we described in our recent show where Biden traveled to Ukraine in 2015 to get the prosecutor fired who was investigating Hunter Biden's corrupt energy firm, Burisma. Those documents include notes of a meeting between Biden and the Ukrainian Prime Minister. Unfortunately, Hur did not share the contents of those notes. Then there's the issue of Biden's claim the other night that he never showed the classified documents to any third party. But that is directly contradicted by his ghostwriter, whom Biden showed the documents in 2017. There's even a quote recovered from one of the ghostwriter's recordings where Biden says, "Just found all the classified stuff downstairs." By the way, after Special Counsel Hur was appointed to investigate Biden, the ghostwriter suddenly decided to delete his recordings of Biden talking about all these things. That's not good. What's just as bad and totally contrary to what we were previously told, some of these documents were top secret and they pertain to things like Ukraine and the Afghanistan war. That's something else Biden lied to the world about the other night when he claimed that this stuff wasn't classified and that it did not have any markings. We'll get to how all this compares to Trump's situation in a moment, but let's first finish up on the Biden situation. Why, if he had all these documents in his garage and shared them with his ghostwriter, did he not get prosecuted? This is the part that has been reported about the most, and also the part that has been distorted the most. It is usual practice when a defendant is very old or has other problems for a prosecutor to weigh the pros and cons of prosecution because, as Hur says in his report, the court won't jail an old man. It's his first offense, and he probably won't reoffend, and so on. But then, and this is the part you've probably heard about already, Hur also gets into the issue of Biden's senility. Hur states that someone as senile as Biden should not be prosecuted because his brain is already so badly impaired that he probably won't get convicted. This is a bit different from the argument about him being too old to prosecute. That argument is a policy argument. The second argument is a legal argument. That's because to be guilty of a crime, you need to have what's called mens rea, which is a guilty mind. What Hur is saying is that Biden's mind is so defective that it might be difficult to convince a jury that he even knew what he was doing. And here's the worst part. Hur says that Biden's cognitive decline was already so advanced in 2017, when he showed his ghostwriter the classified documents, that even that period would fall under the legal category of Biden being too senile to have the requisite intent, or the mens rea. Okay, so what about Trump? Biden claims that his own situation is totally different from Trump. But as we just saw, it's actually quite similar. Both men had documents with classified markings in their possession when they should not have had them. Now, to be fair, that's not even 100% clear in Trump's case because there's still the issue of authority under the Presidential Records Act and Trump's declassification authority as president. These are arguments which will need to be made in court. In any case, those authorities did not apply to Biden, who was vice president at the time. So if anything, Trump's case is better here. Then there's the issue of showing the classified documents to outsiders. In Biden's case, he showed them to his own ghostwriter, and in Trump's case, he showed them, or allegedly showed them, to the ghostwriter for his chief of staff, Mark Meadows. In both cases, it appears as if the classified documents were shown to outsiders, while Biden, respective Trump, were not in office. But there's another important difference which weighs against Biden. Even if we leave aside the unresolved Presidential Records Act issue and the declassification issue, the difference is that, incredibly, the Biden tapes were erased after special counsel was appointed. It's right there in report. After learning of the special counsel's appointment in this matter, Mr. Biden's ghostwriter deleted audio recordings he had created of his discussions with Mr. Biden. In Trump's case, the interview tapes were not deleted. On the topic of deleting stuff, there is the unresolved issue of Trump allegedly trying to erase security tapes. But they were not erased. And in any case, that's another issue altogether, because that issue is not about the documents themselves, but about obstruction, which we'll get back to here in a moment. So again, if there's a difference for the ghostwriter issue, it's in Trump's favor. And then there's location. Despite Biden's claims, Mar-a-Lago, with 24-hour Secret Service protection afforded a former president, was at all times far more secure than stuff strewn all over a Delaware garage where Hunter Biden came and went. Again, that's in Trump's favor. So there's only one issue which might work out in Biden's favor, and that is this whole obstruction issue. You might recall that unlike Biden, Trump was served with a subpoena for the documents which he allegedly had. Now you might say that's not fair, and why wasn't Biden served, and why did Biden have all these documents for much longer, and so on. And you'd be right. But it does not change the fact that in one case there was a subpoena and in the other case there was not. The reality is that we will never know what Biden would have done had he been served with a subpoena. We can't prosecute Biden for something that did not happen. Trump or one of his lawyers did accept service of the subpoena, and they signed a subpoena certification claiming that all classified documents had been returned. It is also known that not everything was returned. Now, as to why the certification was signed, whether it was just an error or whether there was more to it, we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. But in any case, that's the one thing Biden did not face. Unfairly, but that's just the reality of it. And so that's the obstruction charge. Okay, so let's just say that on the whole, the situations are pretty similar, that both had documents and that both showed those documents to a third party. So why does Biden get off scot-free but not Trump? The simple answer is that Biden has a senility defense and Trump does not. That might sound ridiculous, but that is where we are. In fact, it's so ridiculous that one of the reasons not to prosecute Biden is that everyone has allegedly already learned their lesson from the Trump situation, and that therefore future presidents will be a lot more careful. In other words, because Trump is being prosecuted, no other presidents need to be prosecuted. It says that right there in the report. The good news for Trump is that while he still faces some legal jeopardy over the obstruction charge, it was a very good week for him from a political point of view. The revelations about Biden being senile, which are now official, will deeply damage Biden, perhaps even to the point where he has to drop out. Trump also now has very good arguments about unequal treatment. Those are both legal and political, but in the short term, the political aspect will be much more important. If done properly, the unequal treatment argument can be very effectively deployed on the campaign trail all the way until November. Thanks for joining us in today's episode of Truth Over News.